I have Lisa Curtis joining us. She is the Director for Indo-Pacific Security at the Center for a New American Security and former Deputy Assistant to the President. She was part of the first Trump administration. Ms. Curtis, one wonders what is really Donald Trump's game plan here. This is another threat, and this time he has said that he will increase the tariffs substantially within 24 hours. Would you see this as pressure tactics ahead of the deal so that India agrees to his demands? And how do you read India's response?
Well, I think that President Trump is putting the pressure on. He's raising the stakes, trying to get India to complete a good trade deal. But the problem is, I think, in his approach, and he is really putting India on the spot. I think some of this should have been handled less out of the public eye, more privately. For instance, India does rely on Russian oil imports, but that's only in the last few years. India, before Russia invaded Ukraine, hardly imported any Russian energy at all. So that would have been, I think, something that India could have made a concession on. They could have gradually reduced their dependence on Russian oil. However, now that Trump has put this out in the public realm and, really put India on the spot, I think India's back is against the wall, and Prime Minister Modi will be less likely to be able to make that kind of concession if it looks like he's giving in directly to President Trump. So I think, unfortunately, President Trump's very public criticisms of India, particularly on the Russia issue, is making it more difficult for the two sides to come to an agreement. And it's really starting to escalate to a very serious level.
Okay, so Ms. Curtis, because Trump is linking tariffs on India directly to its oil trade with Russia, is this purely a trade issue? Or are you sensing some kind of signaling coming from the second Trump term, which there might be some kind of recalibration of the US-India strategic equation?
Well, I think that the tensions between India and the United States have been building ever since the aftermath of the India-Pakistan conflict. I think that India was irritated with President Trump publicly taking full responsibility for the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, talking about mediating on Kashmir, and then inviting the Pakistani Chief of Army Staff Field Marshal to the Oval Office. All of this, I think, was very irritating to India. And I think, likewise, President Trump didn't like the fact that India was directly contradicting the idea that he had helped broker the ceasefire, while Pakistan is talking about President Trump deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. So I think he, has become irritated with India. I think Indian officials are irritated with President Trump. And then on top of that, the trade issue, trade talks seemed to be going well a few weeks ago. And all of a sudden, we started hearing that there were problems, probably over India not providing access to its agriculture sector. And so I think that the Russian oil issue has sort of been piled on as, one more issue. But it also does denote President Trump's frustration with Putin. And he's trying to do both. He's trying to put pressure on Putin, but he's also, pressuring India. And I think it's, like I said, it's becoming quite quite bad in terms of what the damage that could be done to the longer term strategic partnership that both sides have been investing in for the past 2 decades.
That's right. And Donald Trump is continuing to make the most bizarre statements. I mean, look at the statement which has come in only today, that India isn't a good trading partner. Do such sweeping statements then risk undoing years of carefully built bipartisan momentum in US-India ties, especially in certain sectors like the defense and tech cooperation?
I think they could potentially damage the longer term relationship because he's, directly criticizing India. He's, criticizing India's policies on a broad array of issues, and he's doing it repeatedly over a period of time. So I think this could do damage to Indian trust and confidence in the United States as a strategic partner. And it could become more costly for Prime Minister Modi in terms of his domestic political standing to be able to, reach out to the United States and can continue to build the relationship. So I think that unfortunately, the way President Trump is handling the India partnership is sort of textbook how not to handle the India relationship. Criticizing India so publicly, seemingly taking Pakistan's side on the India-Pakistan conflict, not being sensitive to Indian terrorism concerns, the fact that India was attacked on April 22nd, and then going ahead and inviting the head of the Pakistan military into the Oval Office, less than a month after that attack. So I think really, unfortunately, even though President Trump had spent a lot of time building relations with India during his first term, he seems to be more emboldened, less concerned with having a good relationship with India this time around.
Okay.
Things are definitely different than the first Trump administration when it comes
Visibly
to
different.
India-US relations.
Visibly different, Ms. Curtis. From your time in the Trump administration, since you were making that comparison, how much of this kind of tough talk is rhetoric versus actual policy intent? And should New Delhi then take these tariff threats at face value?
Well, look, this has always been Trump's negotiating style. Even during the first Trump term, before he would meet with Prime Minister Modi, a few days before, he would start tweeting out about India's high tariffs. He used to complain about the high tariffs on Harley Davidson motorcycles, for example. So he has always used these tactics. But what's different this time around is the combination of the geopolitical issues coming into play, the India-Pakistan issue, and not being sensitive to Indian terrorism concerns. And also, just like I said, the fact that he's repeating these criticisms over and over, and willing to escalate the criticisms, and he's having other people in his administration. We've now seen Stephen Miller, jump into the chorus of criticizing India. The Treasury Secretary also had made some remarks. So I think this is quite different, and I do think that India should view this as his negotiating tactics. And I think the calmer that Indian officials can be, the better for sort of, both countries in the future of their relationship. But like I said, I think this is going to be difficult for Prime Minister Modi when the opposition is attacking him for, not standing up for Indian interests. So he's going to have to watch the domestic political reaction to these remarks. But, you're right that it would be best if Indian officials can view these Trump statements as negotiating tactics and not really a signal about where he wants to take the larger strategic relationship. I don't think he is thinking in strategic ways. I think that if he was thinking strategically about the U.S.-India relationship, he would not be moving in this direction, because India is an important partner of the United States. The U.S. and India do have strategic convergences when it comes to the China threat, and he is risking that long-term strategic partnership. I do think he is risking that by his current tactics.
All right, Lisa Curtis, pleasure having you on the show tonight.